In the year 2020, in a galaxy not so far away, the citizens were under attack by an unseen enemy, but hope was restored when the citizens stayed socially distant, but still banded together to defeat the force of evil. Happy May the 4th be with you Day. Happy Star Wars Day. All right. So, as I promised, today we're going to go over the Sylvia Plath piece a little bit. Like my sign. Yeah, episode number. Who even knows? Who even knows what day we're on anymore? Anyway, I decided to take note of the different titles that you guys were titling the poem, and I must say I am highly, highly impressed. Um, some things I've been doing this poem for years, and so I'm pretty familiar with with what students usually think the poem's about. And I must say that I'm impressed with some of your innovative ideas that work, and your explanations were very well done. So kudos to you. The charts all looked really good as far as looking at it through a biographical lens and then a feminist lens and then a Marxist lens and seeing the differences in the story that it's telling and what stands out because you're looking through that lens. So good job. Because of that, I was going to talk a little bit today about On the Subway, which is the one that we started on Friday. That's due by the end of the day today. But you're killing this. So I think I'm going to let you run with your own thoughts. And I have all the faith in the world that you're going to do well on that one too. And then we'll talk about it at a later date. So, um, there we go. So if we look at the poem, this is the worksheet that you had, and if you remember, the title was left off. I asked you to not look up the poem until you were done with the activity to see what the actual poem was entitled. And I'm sure when you did a little bit of research on Sylvia Plath and things like that, you found out that she was quite interesting. She is the poet who ended up taking her own life. She had multiple suicide attempts before becoming successful by sticking her head in the oven. And she didn't bake her head, but in huffing all of the fumes, and she passed away that way. So she had quite the tumultuous life, and I'm sure most of you saw that in what you were reading about her bio when you did the quick search. Anyway, I want to show you some of the titles that you came up with. So the first one I saw was pottery workers. So this idea of getting together and creating things, and it makes sense when you start looking at those words and thinking about the creation and making things and then them multiplying and all these different things. That was definitely a new one. Things like outcast, things that don't quite fit in and might be trying to make a name for themselves. Another interesting one, small little things about the effects of ignoring people and how that can impact someone's mental state. I saw a couple things about oppression. Loud silence was a neat one, focused on the idea of oppressed rising up, which is what we have in the end of the poem. When we see things like, there's so many of us, we shall by morning inherit the earth, our foot's in the door. Okay, so there's a lot going on here with that. A blooming plant, so several of these about like vegetation, grass, weeds, plants rising up, getting ready to have a takeover, the slow overthrow, because it's been something that's coming. Holding on, this idea of like two people being stranded somewhere, that one was really neat too. Our earth around us, so paying attention to the things that are growing or that we need to take care of or whatever the case may be. So I'm sure by now most of you have looked up the poem, and someone did actually come up with the correct vegetation that's being discussed here, which is mushrooms. So the actual poem is entitled Mushrooms. But I think it was Serena who mentioned that this is one of her mom's favorite poems, so she has seen this before, which is awesome. And although it is entitled Mushrooms, the reason why you're getting the feel of this oppression, and when we look at Marxism and feminists, that it fits really well, is because Sylvia Plath was using this as a way to describe the silent yet powerful movement toward equal rights and the feminist movement and being included and all of that, but this idea of mushrooms, and when you read this with the fungi, mushrooms in mind, it makes a lot of sense. And if you've ever had mushrooms popping up in your yard, you'll know that they do. Um, you'll see one, then you'll see a whole bunch of them. And so if you go back through and read this, that's what we have there. So like I said, you guys did a fantastic job filling out these boxes and thinking about what changed from biographical to feminist to Marxist, and you are doing a fantastic job. So as I mentioned, the on the subway that was assigned on Friday is due by the end of the day today. Should you have any questions, please send me an email and we will be back in touch soon. All right, have a great day. It looks like it's going to be not quite as warm as yesterday, but the sun is shining, so we'll take it. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Good job.